We all have a unique view of the world we are in, how you overcome your challenges or attain your goals. Every experience in life has the potential to inspire, influence, and impact those around us. Welcome to the 3i Stories podcast by Better Version of You. Welcome to the 3i Stories podcast by Better Version of You. I'm so excited to be interviewing a young, amazing person who's just been in New Zealand for 2 years. And in just 2 years, he's established himself, he's established a brand. And just recently, when the Prime Minister asks him, "Hey, can I take a selfie with you, please, young man?" So very excited for this episode. And let's hear from our guest himself. Let's welcome Timothy J. Jay, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Pritesh. Thank you very much for the lovely introduction. So happy to be here. And I'm excited to have an interesting discussion today.
Yes, it'll be fun. We are excited to get to know about you, to hear more about you, and I think let's start from just tell us a little bit about where you are from and how was life growing up.
I'm originally from Sri Lanka, born and raised there. I was born in 2005 in Colombo, Sri Lanka, and I lived in Sri Lanka for 18 years of my life. I went from all the way from preschool, year one, year two, all the way to year 11 in Sri Lanka.
Hmm.
Then afterwards, we and my family decided to make the move from Sri Lanka to New Zealand. And then from there onwards, I started my year 12, 13 from here, then, transitioning into New Zealand from Sri Lanka.
Hmm.
And growing up, I had a very uneventful childhood, apart from the typical ones, not so special.
Yeah.
Was bullied a lot, got
Oh
beat up
no.
by two kids a lot of times. And I was not the type of a kid to do my homework regularly, always yelled at by my teachers. I was almost the perfect definition of wasted potential. Like, this kid could do something, but he's not doing anything about it. Instead,
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
wasting his time doing nothing.
Hmm.
And then onwards, my dad was an MC and a media personality, so he was a big deal in Sri Lanka. At school, people got the perception like if his dad could do this stuff, maybe he could do this stuff,
Hmm.
which I could not really do at the time. That way, I got stumbled into it.
Right.
And then from there onwards, I started my, public speaking, MCing, and that part of my journey. And
Hmm.
from there onwards, it was just a hobby. Like,
Right.
I just could not find a reason not to do it. So I just kept on doing it.
Hmm.
But then along the process, I fell in love with it. And
Right.
I continue to do it. I continue to improve myself to find out where I went wrong and try to do better the next time. So doing those stuff is what got to me to where I am. So sorry, I do not have this big and exciting story of finding your passion, being lost and getting there. I just happened to stumble my way into it and could not
Hmm.
find a reason not to do it and ended up liking it.
Yeah, yeah. But that's good. So you stumbled into something that has become a passion because of dad, right? So
Yeah.
you're saying your dad was an established MC and a TV personality in Sri Lanka, and then all of a sudden your teachers say, his dad can do it, so he can do it too. And I'm sure they started handing you the mic in primary school, high school, and then you started to MC, and then you got a feel of it, right? And then you say, that's something you started enjoying. Is that right?
Sort of. It was they
Okay.
started handing me the mic and they took it away quicker than they handing it like quicker than that they handed it to me.
So you're
It
saying
was
you didn't
because
do so well. That's why.
terrible, because there was this one big event where I messed up the name of this big event. That was my first announcement. And then from there onwards, it all went downhill and nobody really trusted me with a mic for a very long time.
Yeah, yeah.
And then luckily I got this small opportunity to make my redemption.
Right.
And I did okay. And I started slowly building that trust up
Mm,
until I got to a point where, you know what, this is what I did wrong on that day. Let me try not to do that again. I would do one event better without repeating the same mistake. Then
mm,
I would figure out something. Okay, this is where this like self reflection, this was all self reflection.
Yeah.
Nobody really guided me strongly because until you're preparing for an event, there would be a lot of resources, a lot of help.
Mm.
But something I noticed was after an event, the feedback you're getting is almost always good feedback, which is a good thing to aim for.
Yeah.
But still, there wasn't much negative feedback coming to a, hey, this is where you could have improved yourself. So I
Right.
started doing that self reflection, this is where I
Mm.
could have done better. This
Yeah.
is where I could have improved a little bit. And I did that, and I got to a point where until this day, I do not feel 100% satisfied with my work. So
That's interesting.
no matter how big or no matter how great the event goes, I
Yeah.
would still not feel excited about it. I would be okay with it.
Yeah.
And I would figure out somewhere to improve and be fixated on it. Well,
Mm.
on the good side, it did help me boost my skills within a very short period of time.
Yes.
But on the other side, there is this lack of satisfaction you get from your work. Like after an event, I don't go yay, I go okay, which is quite anticlimactic, but
Yeah.
it helped me to get to this point where I am, and I think I'm happy with the trade-off.
Mm. I mean, look, being an MC myself, I understand the challenges of being on stage, standing in front and throwing yourself literally to the judgment and the opinions of everyone there. I am pretty sure that, when you started, it would have helped you with your self-confidence. But as you kind of got into it, maybe you became a bit, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you became a bit more self-critical. And maybe
Yeah.
this could be because of Dad. Like he
Uh,
was in double
I
quote,
mean, he did
the
set the
thing,
standard quite high since I was a
absolutely the
kid. So,
benchmark, right? Hmm.
yeah, but here's a good thing about it.
Yeah,
It always kept me humble, no matter how big of an
that's
achievement
beautiful.
I got. Like, so when you first mentioned the prime minister thing, it's a big deal. It's, of course, a life-changing event, but
Of
for me,
course.
I look at it as just this one part of my life. Okay, that happened. That was
Hmm.
really good, but I'm not that guy yet. So,
Yeah.
in a way, it helps me to keep my skills up there, like my
Hmm.
skills polished, and
Yeah.
to improve them further. But on the same hand, it helps me to stay grounded and humble so I do not get too
Hmm.
full of myself. Because a mistake that I used to do in the past was to do one thing really well and
Yeah.
then forget all what I did to get me to that
Forget.
point. So let's say I do an event really well and it goes very well, and
Hmm.
I would forget all about the hard work that I had to put in to make it a success. And
Hmm.
then I would think it's just me. This is just me. I can touch a mic and make magic happen, but that doesn't work that way. So maybe that was exactly what went wrong on the event that I messed up because I
And the
felt a
first
little
one.
bit
Yeah. Yeah.
too self-confident. So
Hmm.
from that point onwards, I try to keep myself grounded using that technique
Hmm.
because I think I saw it somewhere online where, there's this Roman emperor, Marcus Aurelius. Every time he would have this big monumental win or
Yeah.
this big monumental loss, he would have someone behind his throne whisper to his ear, whispering, "You're just a man. You're just a man. No matter how much you win, no matter how much you
Hmm.
lose, you're just a man. You should be grounded. You should be humble." And I feel like the more humble you stay, the more room you have for improvement.
Wow.
So you could
Absolutely. Hmm.
accelerate your journey that way.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. Look, we all find our own ways of being humble, right? When I'm on stage, big, small, no matter how the event went. Sorry, there are ways to be grounded, and I know the importance of it because sometimes when you go too big in your head, so to speak, we know how damaging it can be, right? So well done
Yeah.
on finding a way to ground yourself, to keep yourself grounded and humble, and this is something good and great for the young people of today, right? Is they are finding themselves into whatever space it may be, and some may be acing it, and not just the young people, anyone who's starting something, right? If they're doing really well, it doesn't mean they've mastered one or aced three of the whatever they're doing, first three, that that's it. There's always so
Yeah.
much to learn and coming from that heart, that approach of, yep, I'm good, but hey, there's always more, and there is something more for me to learn, which is, I think, a great approach. But I just want to say, before we move to the New Zealand part of your life, is it correct that your dad would have been your greatest inspiration when you started to hold the mic on stage?
Not, it's hard to say. From a very young age, I
Mm,
did see him perform on stage. I did see him on television. I did used to listen to him on radio.
mm,
So parts of him you could see through me. Maybe it's because I was exposed to him speaking as an MC from a very young age.
mm.
But here's the thing, when a lot of people assume that I want to follow the same path that my dad went on, uh, that's not what I want to do. So it's
Right.
hard to call him an inspiration as an MC because there's a lot of things I learn from him every day.
Mm,
There's a lot of tips I pick up from him. There's a lot of ways of talking and handling a crowd that I pick up from him. But from a professional stand, like if you look at it as, okay, I want to be a professional MC
mm.
one day doing these big events, uh, it's hard to call him an inspiration because I find it a bit reluctant to go down the same path that he go. I want to carve out my own path, like to figure
Mm.
what I want to do. And so, in a way, it's very contradicting. It's a yes and a no
Yes,
answer.
and no, I kind of hear you
Yeah,
because there's so much you learn from him. There's so much you have grown up seeing, like a role model who's there, who's acing it, and probably the 80% of Sri Lanka would have known your dad. And then the
yeah,
expectation was, okay, the son will kind of be walking on the side. Again, coming from the Asian background, the son follows the father's path and the
yeah.
pressure.
And adding on to his like 80% of Sri Lanka knowing him, I remember one day he got cut off in traffic and he yelled at the driver and the driver recognized him, which was
that's,
quite embarrassing.
that's how famous he is, right?
So, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm
So,
saying is because he still is. So Jay, now moving into the New Zealand phase of your life. So you kind of you were not just an MC, when you were in Sri Lanka. You were a young man finishing school with a beautiful family, mom, dad, and siblings, and now all of a sudden, dad who's so established, and you guys would have had pretty much everything sussed in Sri Lanka, now moving to New Zealand, right? Tell us what made you move to New Zealand and how was the first few weeks and months?
well, why we moved to New Zealand when my family was so established in Sri Lanka is an interesting question to answer all the time because it was always the plan for me to move and study abroad, and
Mm,
then my brother to join me. And when my mom thought about this, she got a bit anxious about the fact that me living somewhere else and my brother living somewhere else and them living in a different part of the world.
right.
She got the idea, maybe we should all move so we could stay together for, let's say, a longer period of time so we could keep in touch. That's what led to everybody moving. It's quite humbling for me to see that they gave up a lot of things that they have built for almost 2 decades just to keep the family together. It kind of gives you that perspective of what's actually important in life.
That's wonderful.
And
Yeah, the priority of parents, right?
yeah, and
Mm.
also because of the sacrifice they made, there's also this little bit of pressure that's going on to you just to, get it right.
Uh,
And it's actually good. It's actually a good thing. It's not
yeah,
too much of a bad thing as well. Then after moving to New Zealand for the first couple of months, it was exciting. It was new. It was different coming from South Asia to this country. And it took a lot of effort to figure things out here.
mm. You came as a late teen, right? Just
Yeah,
about
I
finishing
was
your yes.
19. I was turning 19 in 2 months.
Mm,
I started school here and it was completely different from what it used to be in Sri Lanka.
right.
In Sri Lanka, we used to pressure kids into getting things done. Here, they kind of nurture you into getting things done. So I took it lightly, thinking, you know what? they're not really stressing about it, I don't need to stress about it. And I started stressing about it when it was too late because I did not really get the pressure coming at me. It was it was hard to adapt into a relaxed, chill
Mm,
environment that prioritizes mental health or
mm,
results coming from a very cutthroat environment when it, a cutthroat educational background.
yeah, yeah.
And and a lot of people say it takes 3 years for a student to like transition from one system to another.
Mm,
But the thing was, I only had 2 years left in school, and I had to do better if I want to get into uni and do what I want to do. The pressure was high.
mhm,
Always felt like it's unfair that, everybody else are having it easier, even though they're not hardworking as me, or even if they're not as smart as me. Sometimes I would think that. And again, it started to give you the idea that not everybody is equal and there are inequalities. This is the real world. Not everybody starts at the same place, even though we want to get to the same place. So I just had to sit with that for a very long amount of time and
mm,
to look at my weaknesses and to change my perspective from, hey, I don't have enough experience, to, hey, if I figure this out, I'm actually going to be a lot more capable than somebody who already had experience
mm.
because I would have figured it out in a very short amount of time. So by looking at that way, I used to turn my negatives into positives, even though it was fake
Yeah,
in a way that it's something that I built in my mind
yeah,
to push
yeah.
me through. It
Mm.
helped. It was either pouting and complaining, or at least try to, uh, I think Gen Zs call it delusional, trying to
Delulu.
delusion
That's
my
a
way.
nice word
Yeah,
to know.
delulu. So delulu is sometimes a salulu. That's the phrase.
Oh,
And
so delusion is like a solution. Is that what you're saying?
yes,
Is that
I
what
think it was exactly what it was. Like, if this kid had 10 years to figure it out, I
mm,
had 3 months. If I could figure it out, I'm actually better than him. That's what I kept telling myself. And that drove me to not give up
mm,
and to hang on and to actually try to do my best, because it was really easy to tell myself, you know what? You don't have as much experience in this educational system. You're not familiar with typing out assignments when all you did was study for standardized tests.
mm,
So it's very different. And I looked at that difference as, if I could figure this out, maybe I could actually be more stronger than the other one.
mm,
The one who's at a more advantage than I am.
mm. It's great because it's telling me, some of your inner strengths,
Yeah.
being able to manipulate things in your mind and fix things and then work on it, no matter how incorrect it may be. But that triggers you, that motivates you, that inspires you to do something that you have set your mind to. That's a wonderful quality there, Jay. And I like how you're saying, sorry, I like how you said that for some others, and we shouldn't be comparing, but for the
Yeah.
purposes of when we are in it and it's difficult and it's challenging,
It's
we need to kind of find our feet a little bit. So, for example, for mom and dad, there would have been so many things they would have had to unlearn before they could learn these new things. Whereas for you, you are still relatively new as a young person, ready to embrace the world, still figuring your feet, so to speak, still figuring out who you were. Whereas for mom and dad, majority of the life they have lived in a country, they've established themselves, they've got everything going, and now to uproot and move here. As a migrant, I know how difficult and challenging that is. So kudos to your family. Well done. I,
um,
I know it's
and
not easy. I'm sure it would have brought you all together in a much stronger way as a unit. But initial days, what were some of your challenges? Initial days.
making friends, I would say
Making
that
friends.
was the biggest challenge,
Yeah.
because when you join school in year 12, when everybody already has friends, it's
Mm,
hard to make connections because everyone else is tightly bound together.
yeah.
And I thought, like, from a young age, I was very quiet. And that's why I had an uneventful childhood. I wasn't invited to much birthday parties until I was
Yeah.
13 or 14.
Yeah.
So not that many play dates, not that many hangouts and stuff. All the friends that I had until that point were people that were friends with me, not the friends that I want. They were all connections that they initiated, not connections
Mhm.
that I initiated. it was very challenging at first to make friends, to make a strong social connections around school, to around at my place of work and other, parts of my life.
Mm.
And then that isolation started to happen, and it was tiring to go through your day-to-day life. And that was the biggest challenge that I faced.
Right.
And over time, you start to realize, okay, maybe I need to be more social. Maybe I need to talk to more people. Maybe I
Mm.
need to be a bit more open, and maybe I need to be a social butterfly sometimes, because
Yeah.
I was in a tough situation at that point. And
Mm.
apart from that, other stuff that I had to get used to was driving, because it was very different. It's very different. Apart from the silly stuff like that, it's just adapting and
Mm.
to reinvent yourself in a new place, because a lot of my identity was tied to the stuff that were back home.
Mm.
And it took a while for me to realize, hey, you should not really defining yourself from your past, but to start writing yourself
Mm.
according
Wow,
to
that's
what's in
beautiful.
front of you right now. Then
Mm.
I started to realize, okay, Sri Lanka is the past now, New Zealand is the future. So you should probably start inventing yourself here now.
Yeah.
And it's a good chance you could invent yourself. If you were not cool back then, you can try to be cool now, which was a good chance again. And after realizing that, I could confidently say almost 95% of my problems were solved. And I felt like that gray filter kind of disappeared and everything
Mm.
was in color again.
Mm.
I think if I could give a word of advice to a lot of young people moving from one country to another, from one city to another,
Mm.
I would say stop defining yourself from the things that you had in the past. Stop uh, tying your identity to your past and start writing your identity the way you want, that in a way that matches your future and in a way that agrees with who you are right now.
That's powerful, Jay, because it's almost like, maybe as a young young person in school, even in high school, as a young teenager, I'm sure that there's labels being put on you and things, etc., right?
Yeah,
But when you move here to a new country, to something totally foreign, it gives you a chance to like shed off and start the 2.0 version of yourself, right? Or someone
exactly.
totally new based on the new country. I actually love that advice. And I would like to say to our viewers, especially young kids who are moving or who have moved, we understand it's quite difficult to move from one country where you know everything, everything's fast, everything's easy, to a brand new country where you have to reinvent yourself, as Jay said, where you have to find pretty much every second thing, which is new, and having to get used to it. But as Jay says, it's your opportunity, like to define yourself, to redefine yourself into the requirements of a new country or who you want to be. So that's beautiful perspective there, Jay. But in terms of redefining yourself, so when you moved here, you decided to establish your personal brand, and which
Yeah.
was MCing, right? So tell us a little bit about how you got that going off the ground in a foreign country.
Well, I feel like I did not give my dad much credit earlier when we were talking about his inspiration in my life. But now I have to give him the 100% of the credit of building my personal brand, which I am
Mm.
lucky to have him around. He had 2 decades of experience building his personal brand. His advice is invaluable. And he's the one who's pulling the strings and managing everything and giving me all the advice, whether if I should pick up this event, whether I should not do that, and if I were to do that, how should I do it, how should I
Mm.
interact with people that I'm talking to. His input has been invaluable again, and it had helped me to establish my presence in a way that stands out.
Mm.
And I would say I did not care too much about a personal brand from the start.
Mm-hmm.
I just focused on improving my craft. And a
Wonderful.
lot of people that I meet on a daily basis who are obsessed with this idea of increasing their engagement, making themselves popular, sharpening their personal brand, tend to forget about the value that they're bringing to the table. Let's
So good.
say,
Mm.
yes, and and then you end up being popular, but you don't really have anything to show for it
Hmm.
because you've
Or
forgot what's truly important.
sorry, as you're saying, you become popular, but it's a fake you because it doesn't align
Exactly.
with the real values
Yeah,
and who you are, right? So,
exactly.
wow,
It's
that's a great point.
show no substance. That's the best way to put
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Let's say if I was an artist and all I cared about was being popular instead of focusing on my art,
Hmm.
well, let's say I did find out a way to be popular. My Facebook ad stuff actually worked in increasing my engagement. But if my art isn't good enough for my hype,
Hmm.
I'm all smokes and mirrors. I'm not real. I don't have any substance in me.
Beautiful.
So
Hmm.
what I did and from the start was again fixating on the small error I made, trying to make myself the best version of me. Like
Hmm.
you're focused on making people the better version of themselves. When that happened, it authentically followed me, the
Hmm.
brand stuff, because more people start to notice, more people start to engage with me
Right.
because what I had to offer was pretty good, which am grateful for because
Hmm.
I could improve it. I could work 100 hours a week improving my craft, but if people don't like it, people don't like it. And people liking it is something that I'm very grateful for.
Hmm.
And it just happened that way. And another thing was to be humble about it. And when I was interacting with a lot of clients, let's say people from the audience after the show, I would try to be humble as possible
Hmm.
and try to connect with them and to not to talk to them as this big MC guy on stage, but as somebody who's actually grateful for their support, someone who's actually grateful to have them around. And just that kind of organically, I could just tell, just work on your craft and the rest will follow. Work on your craft and positioning yourself
Hmm.
as uh, as a premium option, I would say, in business terms, and the rest
Hmm.
will genuinely follow you. Because if you if your sole purpose was personal brand and establishing yourself and being popular,
Hmm.
you will get there. We live in an age where I could make anything popular, but
Right.
you do need to have something to show for it.
Hmm. Hmm.
And
You gotta carry
another
that art right with you.
exactly,
Yeah.
and another
Hmm.
good quote. Uh, s- I think another good quote a friend of mine told me that stuck with me to this day. It was, I think, 5, 6 years ago. It was bad MCing gets noticed. Good MCing, nobody cares. Great MCing, people remember.
I love it. I love it. Yeah.
And
It's.
just try to push, I'm always trying to push that boundary from good MCing to great MCing, make myself
Hmm.
memorable,
Yeah.
and to make sure people remember me, try to bring something unique to the table, try to
Hmm.
bring something that people connect with, and try to
Hmm.
be authentic and enjoy what I'm doing. And it's just a mixture and a concoction of everything that just led me to where I am.
Hmm. Wow. You've used so many big words, amazing words. For if I was to advise a young person, and just paraphrasing from some of the bits you said, is for any young person listening who wants to establish their brand, a personal brand or actually their business brand, one, you got to enjoy what you're doing. Right. Two, you got to be true to yourself. You got to be authentic. You got to do what you truly love rather than fake. Three, as Jay said, you have to do it with a heart. Don't do it just to be famous. Do it,
Yes.
and we've seen a lot of people do it just to gain that fame, that popularity or power in a situation, right? But what Jay's saying and what I'm hearing is, you do it with the heart to really do it and to be real in it, right? Do it with the values that makes you you. And I think, Jay, one of the things you missed was, and I'd just like to add, is when you are you, people love you. People would want to be
Exactly.
what you have to offer rather than people saying, okay, Jay is like his dad, so let's get Jay. No, Jay is
Uh,
Jay. Right? His dad is his dad. And I think from a very young age, when you have started to work on that, being different, being yourself, that's beautiful advice, especially at a time in this world where young people like yourselves are struggling to find who they are, and that leads to a lot of negative things in terms of their own inner self-belief, and you use the word that people start getting into this whole mental health problems, right? I thank you for those amazing values that you have, that you try to add into your craft to then bring it on stage. In terms of now trying to close our amazing discussions, I'd like to go on and on, but time is precious to you as well. So very quickly, three quick things you would want to tell a young person, regardless of whether they have moved to New Zealand or they have been here, who would like to start their own business brand. Right? Three things that you, as Jay, who has established themselves in a market, that you'd like to share with. And then the next thing will be, I'll be asking you, how was that experience where when we started off with the Prime Minister wanting to, actually calling you for a selfie and a photo and congratulating you? How did that feel? So you can answer it in whichever way you want, whichever order.
First, let's start off with the Prime Minister stuff. And it was quite surreal because I was actually, no matter how confident you seem, and no matter how many people tell me I look very confident, actually behind the mic, I am
Yeah.
scared, I am anxious, and I am a bit
Mm,
worried about my performance. Even at that point, I was anxious and I was like, did I do a good job? Did I do a good job? I hope I did a good job. And when I got that
mm,
comment from him, I did know that meant a lot. And when he said, I handled it like a pro, you were very calm under pressure, you you managed everything so well. You're a brilliant MC. When he said that, I actually felt it. I was
mm,
like, thank you very much. I'm very that's very kind of you. I did comprehend how important that comment was and how
mm,
proud I was to receive it from the head of state of the country that I was living in. But at the
mm.
moment, I was still shocked and I was worried about whether or not I did a good job. I could not really feel excited about it. I felt excited about it 3 hours later.
It
Um,
sunk in a bit
and
later, so to speak, right?
yes, yes, it came through postal service. NZ Post delivered it. Took a couple of days to reach. And um, again, the three pieces of advice that I would give a young entrepreneur who's looking forward on starting a business is not work on your craft, position yourself smartly, whether
Mm,
just ask yourself what type of a brand that you want to be and position yourself there. Do you want to be a premium service? Do you want to be the cheap underdog, or do you want to just get the job done? And there's
nice.
nothing wrong with being premium or the underdog because,
Yeah.
Costco has its place and, Woolies has its place. It's just two different markets. And also work on your craft, be the best version
Mm,
you can. Forget
mm,
about the fame, forget about the personal brand, forget about your followers. Like just work on being the best self you can and then presenting it. So if you could
mm,
have a really good product and if you could be really good at presenting that product,
mm,
you're good and the rest will follow. And the third
mm.
thing would be to always have faith in yourself. I think my mom is a successful entrepreneur and she used to tell me, believe your wings, not the branch that you're standing on. So
That's
always
powerful.
trust yourself, have faith.
Yeah, so mom's quote was, don't give the branches the power that you are sitting on, but believe in the wings that support you, right? Which is your own body part. That is such a powerful one. And Jay, thanks for your time. But before I let you go, I'm sure there will be many Sri Lankans who would be listening to this, and hopefully your friends back in Sri Lanka or even here, because I know you've got a network of amazing Sri Lankan families. What is your one advice to them, and what can they, and for that matter, all our listeners, what is one step they can start taking today that will lead them to be better versions of themselves?
It's a bit difficult for me to switch from English to my mother tongue because we have been conversing in English for a very long time now, but I'll try my best. Uh, if I had to give one message in my mother tongue to anyone from Sri Lanka who's looking forward in moving to New Zealand, I would say හොඳට කතා කරන්න පුළුවන් වීමට හැර මට ඔයාලට තවත් දෙයක් කියන්න පුළුවන් නම් ඒ කියන්න තියෙන්නේ බය වෙන්න එපා. මෙහෙ ඇවිල්ලා තමන්ගේ අදහසක් කෙනෙකුට ප්‍රකාශ කරන්න එහෙම නැත්නම් මීටින් එකකදී කට ඇරලා කතා කරන්න තමන්ගේ අදහස එළියට ප්‍රකාශ කරන්න බය වෙන්න එපා. ඒ පසුතැවෙන්න එපා. මොකද ඒක ගොඩක් අයගේ මම දකිනවා මෙහෙන ඒ ඉංග්‍රීසි කියන්නේ අපේ දෙවන භාෂාව නිසා ඒ බය ඇති වෙන්න පුළුවන්. හැබැයි බය වෙන්න එපා. ඒක ගොඩක් තමන්ගේ අදහස මිස කතා කරන විදිය නෙමෙයි එතන වැදගත් වෙන්නේ.
All right. So in short, what did you say?
In short, it was that a lot of people, apart from speaking English properly in a way that you could communicate your ideas, if I
Right.
could tell my fellow mates a word of advice, it would be not to be afraid to speak up. Because what I see is a lot of migrants who are moving here, a lot of people from my community, they're afraid to stand up for themselves. They're afraid to voice out an opinion. Like, I think I knew one person that would work 2 hours overtime every day rather than to voice his conditions out. So the biggest advice is just don't be afraid to stand up for yourself.
I suppose it comes from a little bit of a lack in the self-confidence side of things,
Yeah,
isn't it? 'Cause
exactly.
You have moved from somewhere we established, you know, the ins and outs, into something new, something foreign that obviously can, you know, set us back a little bit, and especially in our minds that, hey, we don't know their style, we don't know whether we fit in or how do we fit in, etc., etc. But Jay, being a coach, you know, that's one of the things. I coach a lot of migrants, and I try to get them to change perspective in the sense that instead of focusing on the words that come out, focus on the idea that you are trying to express. Because a lot of times that wonderful golden idea that you may be holding back in sharing could change a life, or could change someone's world entirely, right? Or it could be revolutionary. So thank you for those beautiful words in your mother tongue, and it sounded really great as well. I really hope that friends who are watching, they've really enjoyed our conversation, and please feel free to comment on what we have talked about. If there's anything that resonates, we'd love to hear from you. And Jay, thank you so much for your time. Any closing words before we wrap up our podcast?
Closing words, we spoke a lot about branding, your personal brand, and how to develop your craftsmanship and your business eventually. My biggest advice to anyone who is planning on improving their skills, and which eventually will obviously improve your business and personal brand, is to just work on yourself. Like fame, personal brand, reach, popularity, they follow you. You don't have to follow them. As long as you are genuine to yourself and you're 100% committed to improving yourself and just making your skills better day by day, I think that's the best thing you can work on.
Beautiful. You know, the outward of who we are starts from inside, right? The inner
Definitely.
work of who we are, building ourselves, believing in ourselves, and stepping into the better versions of ourselves will naturally see you perform better in public, so to speak, or be better in public. Jay, wonderful talking to you. So much wisdom and knowledge from a young person like you. And I'm sure our young listeners, and in general, all our listeners, will be very inspired by your journey, how you have made someone of yourself moving into a foreign country. And I'm sure there'll be a lot more of you that we will see. So thank you. We wish you all the very best in your journey in New Zealand. And to our friends, we will see you all in our next episode. Thank you.